Hello and welcome to my Tank Basics series. In this episode, we're going to be looking at resistances on a tank. So there are a large number of misunderstandings when it comes to resistances, sort of how much you need, how valuable they are, when you need them most, among other things. In this video, I will hopefully answer all of your questions so that you can go away and make some educated decisions on the amount of resistances that you need on your tank builds. So what are resistances exactly? So resistances, which are also known as armor, are additional layers of protection that help to reduce the incoming damage you receive. You have spell resistance and you have physical resistance, along with specific resistances such as flame, frost, shock, and magic resistance that are entwined with your spell resistance, and then you've got disease, poison, and bleed resistance that work within the physical resistances. The hard cap for resistances in PvE is 33,000. If you have any more than this, then they are doing nothing. Resistances are obviously capped, or else you'd basically be able to reach a point where you take no damage. So when you have 33,000 resistances, this will provide you with 50% mitigation. And for every 660 resistances, this will give you 1% mitigation. When it comes to the flame, frost, shock, magic, disease, poison, and bleed resistances, you have to look at them within the spell or physical resistance. So for example, if you were to have 25,000 spell resistance, and then you've also got 5,000 fire resistance, that basically means that you have 25,000 spell resistance against all spell damage types, but you've got 30k resistance specifically against fire attacks. So how valuable are resistances? Now, when it comes to tanking, you obviously want to receive the least possible amount of damage as you can, because you're the person in control of the enemies and the bosses, and you'll be taking a lot of damage from them. So it's important to have some resistances. Now, it's not always essential to cap out your resistances. Sometimes you'll actually make tanking harder by capping out your resistances because you'll have focused too much attention onto them and diminished other areas of your build in doing so. You need to consider a few things, such as how much time do you spend blocking in a fight? What kind of damage will you be receiving in the fight that you're doing? When you spend less time blocking, resistances are a lot more useful because you're not making use of your block mitigation in those moments. But when you spend a lot of time blocking, your resistances are less valuable because of block mitigation. When you're in a fight that contains certain types of damage, such as damage over time that can't be purged, or extremely high damage situations, resistances are again extremely valuable. So how many resistances do you actually need on a tank? Well, there's no exact answer for that, but I will show you a few examples of what impact your resistances are going to have. So if you spend a large portion of a fight blocking, you'll be making use of your block mitigation. Just by blocking, you'll reduce your incoming damage by 50%. As a tank, it's quite likely you'll have 75% plus block mitigation. Now let's say you take a heavy attack from a boss, which would hit you for 100k. If you were not blocking, you had no resistances, no gear, no debuffs, no buffs, nothing. So the base value of that heavy attack is 100k. So now let's also assume you have 75% block mitigation and 33k resistances. So you block the 100k hit, it would instantly become a 25k hit because you've reduced the damage via your block mitigation. What then happens is your resistances reduce damage by 50%. But it's not 50% in total, it's 50% of the remaining amount. So it would be 50% of the remaining 25k damage that you're taking, which is 12,500. This means that at 75% block mitigation and 33k resistance, your resistances are only actually reducing the total incoming damage by 12.5%. Now, if we do the same equation again, but presume instead that you don't have capped resistances, let's say you've got 30k instead, then the boss's heavy attack would hit you for 13,625, which is only 1,125 damage more. So the point I'm trying to make here is, if a boss's hardest hitting attack hits you for 100k, and you have 75% block mitigation, then the difference between 33k and 30k resistances would be a tiny value of 1,125 more incoming damage. So it's simply not worth intentionally trying to stack 3k more resistances just to reduce a boss's hardest attack by 1.1k. So in the explanation that I just told you, I didn't include any CP, buffs, debuffs, or anything else that you could benefit from. If you go over to the Tank Club Discord, you'll find a copy of Super Ryan's damage mitigation sheet. If we input all the data and presume we've got 30k resistances and we are hit for 100k, but we put in our champion points, we put in our armor types, we include major and minor maim that we would get from Frost Clench, we include major and minor protection that we would passively get from slotting Temporal Guard and Revealing Flare. At 30k resistances, we would only get hit now for 6,066 damage. If we change this to 33k resistances, we would take 5,545. If we change this to 28k resistances, we'd get hit for 6,402 damage. The point I'm trying to make here is, all things considered, when you apply all buffs and debuffs, when you're fully buffed up, when the enemy's debuffed, you're blocking, your resistances are really not that impactful or vital at all. When you're taking damage while not blocking, or you're being hit by attacks that aren't reduced by block mitigation, such as damage over time attacks, then resistances are really helpful. When you're alone in the portals of Cloud Rest, or dealing with really high incoming damage, such as Barsai Hard Mode in Rockgrove, or places like that, when you're doing burn mechanics on bosses, when you're trying to skip mechanics and do stuff that's not intended, then resistances are very useful. But for general tanking, for the wide majority of players, the difference between 28k resistances and 33k is virtually nothing. So you do not need to sacrifice everything to cap them out. 28 to 30k resistances fully buffed is what I suggest, and that will absolutely be enough to get you through pretty much all content in the Elder Scrolls Online as a tank. If you do need to build some resistances, try working in the Master's weapons into your build with the Puncture and Remedy set by putting a reinforced piece of gear on your chest. You could also make use of the Bulwark CP and the Fortified CP, but these are not always needed. So that is all the information you should need to make some good decisions about your resistances on a tank. Yes, you do need resistances. Yes, you do want to have as many as possible, but you don't need to be pushing and trying to reach that 33,000. It's not essential. It's going to make very little difference. It's not essential, especially when you are blocking damage. Resistances are having much less of an impact. I hope this video has helped you understand resistances a little bit better. If you've got any questions, you can ask them over on the Tank Club Discord. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.